What is up, people of YouTube? Welcome to another day in paradise. For those of you guys who are new, my name is Cody McCarty, and today we're going to be going over why I'm selling my 85 1.4 G Master to get the Sony 90mm macro lens. I think every professional photographer should have a macro lens in their camera bag, and we're going to go over why in this video. Paul, I'm going to link his channel right up at the top here somewhere, and he's going to be doing an in-depth pixel peeping comparison. And we're going up to Big Bear to film and photograph and get out there and use these lenses and kind of get to the conclusion of which might be better for you.
Okay, so I definitely had to use both cameras for time lapses of this. This is just, oh my goodness, this is incredible. Whew.
Better and better.
This video is gonna be great. I can already tell. What do you think, Paul? This video is gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Woo! Man, make sure you hit that like button, and if you already like what you see, hit subscribe. Man, I am blown away. We're gonna get into this. Just a minute, we'll talk about it. But first, I have to say, what's the point of watching these gear videos and having this gear if you don't get out and use it? Before you go watching these gear porn videos, just think about that and think about getting up early, capturing this, and having a blast. That was really cheesy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
that was a little bit. Let's get that cheesiness out
Forget
of the
that
way.
ever happened.
Yeah, let's forget, except the internet is forever, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I do want to let you guys know I removed my down jacket just because the black photographs better in this setting, but I am cold. Just so you guys don't question like, hey, he's in a black jacket now and he was originally in an orange jacket. You can probably see why we chose Big Bear if you're looking at this beautiful blue sky, the orange hues in the background, the green. It is fall here and it looks amazing. Let's get into my first issue with the 85 1.4 and why I chose the 90. Weight. You know, backpacking, adventure photography, traveling, it comes down to what am I going to be carrying all day? What am I going to be carrying 10 miles up a mountain? And the 85 1.4 weighs pretty much double. I don't have exact measurements, I'll put them up on the screen, but in my hands, it's so much heavier than the 90, and I noticed the difference. That's the big issue that I noticed right off the bat, but there's a lot of other little things like minimum focusing distance, sharpness, color reproduction, contrast that we'll get into with some comparisons. You can look at, once again, Paul's video for the in-depth everything. That is small things. We'll get into minimum focusing distance issues in just a second. I'm gonna get coffee first, and then we're gonna go on a hike. Paul, right now, which lens are you liking more, the 85 or the 90?
Oh man, as much as I want to say the 90, after seeing the difference in the bokeh, like we've been speaking about the differences in the bokeh, and I'm like, clearly our conversations, I'm like, no, there's no way, I don't see it. After seeing like a, taking a photo with the 90, then immediately taking it with the 85, I'm kind of liking the 85 for photo.
I'm gonna let you talk on the distortion with the bokeh balls, just because this just looks beautiful. This background's just amazing. So what is something that we noticed with the bokeh balls?
Specifically with the 90, they're not actually round. They're more cat eye. And in some scenarios, they're not cat eye. They're actually distorted enough to where they're not round at all. And it's
More
funny
like an
'cause-
oval.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like they're oval shape, and sometimes it's not really eye appealing, pun intended, because like you pointed it out to me and I didn't really believe it. But once you actually punch in and you can see the cat eye, it's not quite that appealing.
There you have it. Paul said it best, honestly. He just was framed perfectly. I wanted him to say it because the fall colors, full effect, looking beautiful. It's soon going to be snow, which me and Paul, oh man, we're stoked for that.
We're finally ready.
Yeah, but I think we're going to try and pop off our fall stills, get a direct image comparison really quick. Did you want to do that here, or do you want to do it in the middle of the street? I feel like we have a high contrast situation right here.
Yeah.
That could work out great.
I want to go back around this bend to that one spot we saw.
Okay.
I didn't see any parking though, so we might
I
have to
did. There was a
walk.
parking right up there.
Was there?
Right up it.
Okay,
Yep.
let's go over there then.
Perfect. One slightly picked up.
It's not too bad. There's a lot of car noise though, of course, and there's probably going to be a plane. There's some important things to note about the differences in these two lenses. And a lot of hiking, we want to try to save as much weight as humanly possible. And the big selling point for me for the 90mm was what we talked about earlier, was A, the money, but B, the adjustable focal length. It has much shorter focal length from what I use.
That's an eagle.
It's much nicer.
That's an eagle.
So I got a little distracted. I had no idea there were bald eagles an hour drive away from me. I didn't know they migrated south towards the lakes near us in the winter, so I have something to capture now. Now we're gonna really dive into why I think every photographer should own a macro lens, why the 90mm macro, or if you're using a different camera system, the 100mm macros with Canon and Nikon are essential lenses, and why I'm selling my 85 to get it. Once again, the in-depth review video is going to be on Paul Dillon's channel. I'm gonna link his channel up here. He is my partner in crime, and we're always making videos together, and we're traveling all the time. Now let's get into this. Right off the bat, there is a lot of differences. One, the minimum focusing distance, like I had mentioned, is the reason that I chose the 90mm macro. I do a lot of product work. I do a lot of shots that sometimes require me to get in a little bit tighter, and I'm unable to do that with the 85 1.4 G Master. That lens has a 2-foot minimum focusing distance. It's like 2.5 feet. Getting detail shots is quite a challenge. Honestly, I've been faking it with using the A7R IV and the A7R III prior to just crop in to get those detail shots. Then for video, I've been using like Super 35 mode, and that's been my like workaround. However, the true like frame filling macro capabilities of a macro lens just cannot be replicated and are super important for the versatility of your lens setup. So I would prioritize a macro lens over an 85 portrait lens every day of the week. I mentioned 85 as a portrait lens because that's mainly what it's used for. If you're solely a portrait photographer and that's all you do, yeah, that lens is a great purchase. But if you want to expand beyond that, you're going to get more bang for your buck getting a macro lens. You can still use it for portraiture photography. There's only one little thing that I've noticed with the 90mm macro. It's sharper, better contrast, and just is a better lens overall. But I do notice that the bokeh warps in the corners a little bit, and they're not perfectly rounded. So if you really like rounded bokeh balls in the background, the 85 1.4 is phenomenal at it. Its 11 aperture blades are what allows it to be super round, and it looks super clean. Autofocus capabilities, the 85 wins that category as well. It's significantly faster, and the extra 2 stops of light allow it to autofocus much easier in darker situations, whereas the 90 really hunts and struggles. You can limit with the switch on the side how far it's going through the focal range. So if you aren't going to be using macro capabilities, you don't want it to try and hunt through the full range and try and see if it needs to focus on something in macro if you're not doing any macro. I also like the fact that the 90, as I mentioned, is lighter than the 85. The 85 is like 600 grams more, which makes a huge difference backpacking. And I found myself super limited by the 85 for what it is that I do. I do more than just portrait photography. I actually don't photograph people near as much as when I started. and getting detail shots with the Ferraris that I work with, it's going to come in super handy. Another thing that I've noticed is handheld video is actually really smooth due to the dual optical image stabilization that you have with the 90. So I found myself hand holding some of the shots on this Big Bear trip, and it looked really, really good. Now, if you're kind of on the fence still, you might be happy to know that macro lenses are usually significantly cheaper than the 85-1.4 counterparts. My 85-1.4, if you find an excellent condition used one on Adorama, $13.50. This comes in at about $1,000. You can find them used for like $800. I've seen as low as $600. And the 85-1.4 is $17.99, $1,800. So you can save yourself a grip of cash and get the 90 macro, which is sharper than the 85 G Master if you're shooting Sony. I don't know the other lens manufacturers. I should probably say this is mostly geared towards Sony photographers. I definitely think macros just overall are super critical and super essential for the professional photographer. When we get into the overall feel of the lenses, I actually prefer the 90 macros feel. I don't use the aperture ring. I think it's kind of just gimmicky on the 85-1.4. The 90 macro has the hard stops with the focus ring, and it just feels good in the hand because it's got texture to it. It also has numbers on it for focusing distance, which I really, really like. And it just feels really good in the hands. The 85 doesn't feel bad, but it just feels a little beefy. And it's just really a massive lens, the 85-1.4. If you want to save money and you don't want to get a 90 macro, you can get the 85-1.8 by Sony, which is a good choice. But I would still spend a little bit more money to get the 90mm macro because of its portrait capability still, and the macro capabilities. Most of the time, if you're shooting portraiture in difficult lighting situations, you're gonna have a flash. So you don't need that extra 2 stops as much, especially since the depth of field is so shallow at 1.4 that if you have multiple subjects in frame, even if you think they're standing side by side, you'll probably miss focus on 1 or 2 of them. Which is something that I noticed, so I was always stopping down the 85-1.4 down to f2 or f2.8 just so I could have everybody in focus and have a bigger depth of field. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for all my content. I don't like making so much gear review videos just because I don't want to be labeled as a gear head and stuff like that, and I think a lot of people watch a lot of gear videos, so I am trying to share my opinions on it, but also include vlogs and just travels and stuff like that, and hopefully inspire you guys to get out and use the gear that you spend a lot of money on. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight as to why you should choose one or the other. If you really want to get nitty gritty and pixel peep, once again, I encourage you to go over to Paul's channel. The video is linked down below. Till the next video, I'll see you guys around.
Now I'm going to be putting up a raffle to win these prints, the owl print right over here, bear print, astro print, and they're already framed for you guys. And I'm looking forward to giving some of these out to you guys as a thank you for reaching 1,400 subscribers at this point in time. That's just an incredible amount of people, and I'm so stoked that you guys have checked out my content, enjoyed it, and subscribed. So this is my way of saying thank you, and hopefully you guys win. Best of luck. Look for the next video to enter that raffle.
I had no idea there were eagles. Oh my god. Forgot the camera fell asleep. Nice. Yeah, you can't see that.
There he is.